March 1988. Hermilda Gaviria de Escobar, Pablo Escobar's 71-year-old mother, was leaving church in Envigado when four men grabbed her off the street in broad daylight, threw her into a van, drove away before anyone could react. Within an hour, Pablo received a phone call from the Cali Cartel, his biggest rivals. They had his mother. They wanted $10 million, and Pablo's complete withdrawal from Medellin. They gave him 72 hours to comply. And if he didn't, they said, Hermilda would die. It was the biggest mistake the Cali Cartel ever made, because what Pablo did in the next 72 hours became legend, became the story that every cartel member in Colombia told to explain why you never, ever touch Pablo Escobar's family, became the moment that proved Pablo would burn the entire country down before he let anyone hurt his mother. To understand why this was such a catastrophic miscalculation by the Cali Cartel, you need to understand Pablo's relationship with his mother. Hermilda wasn't just Pablo's mother. She was the person he loved most in the world, more than his wife Maria Victoria, more than his children Juan Pablo and Manuela, more than anyone. She was a woman who'd raised him in extreme poverty in the comunas of Envigado, who'd worked multiple jobs, cleaning houses, washing clothes, selling food on the street, to feed her 7 children when Pablo's father Abel couldn't provide enough, who'd never given up on him even when he became the most wanted criminal in the world, even when the entire Colombian government was hunting him, even when everyone told her to disown him. And Pablo worshipped her. Not just loved her, worshipped her. Called her every single day no matter where he was hiding, no matter how dangerous it was to make the call, no matter what operations he was running. Sent her money constantly, millions of dollars over the years. Bought her houses, bought her cars, bought her anything she wanted. Made sure she had everything she needed, that she lived in comfort, that she never had to work again like she'd worked when Pablo was a child. He visited her whenever he could, brought his children to see her, treated her like royalty. And he told everyone in Colombian underworld, told every cartel, every gang, every criminal organization, told them explicitly and repeatedly, my mother is untouchable. Touch her, and I will destroy you. Not arrest you, not fight you, destroy you. Completely. Everyone knew this. Everyone respected it. It was the one line nobody crossed, except, apparently, the Cali Cartel. The Cali Cartel was the only organization in Colombia powerful enough to challenge Pablo's Medellin cartel. They controlled the cocaine trade in southern Colombia, while Pablo controlled the north. They were rivals, enemies, constantly fighting over territory and routes and power and money. But there had always been an unspoken rule, a code that even criminals followed. You don't touch family. You kill soldiers. You kill associates. You kill anyone involved in the business, anyone who chose this life. But you don't touch wives, you don't touch children, and you definitely, absolutely, under no circumstances, touch mothers. The Cali Cartel broke that, shattered it, and they did it because they were desperate, because they were losing, because Pablo was winning. By 1988, Pablo Escobar had become too powerful, was controlling too much of the cocaine trade, not just in Colombia but globally, was making too much money. Estimates put his income at over $20 billion at that point. Was expanding into Cali's territory, taking their routes, bribing their contacts, stealing their business. And the Cali Cartel's leaders, the Rodriguez-Orihuela brothers, Gilberto and Miguel and their associates, decided they needed to do something drastic, something that would force Pablo to back down, something that would show they were willing to go further than anyone else, willing to break the rules that everyone else followed. So they came up with a plan that was either brilliant or suicidal, depending on how Pablo responded. They would kidnap his mother, hold her hostage, force Pablo to choose between his mother's life and his empire. They thought Pablo would choose his mother, thought he'd pay the ransom and withdraw from Medellin, thought they could use his love for Hermilda against him, could exploit his one weakness, could turn his greatest strength into his greatest vulnerability. They were catastrophically wrong. When Pablo got the call telling him the Cali Cartel had his mother, the people around him said his face went completely blank. No emotion. No reaction, just silence. Then he hung up the phone, and he said 7 words that everyone in the room remembered for the rest of their lives. Get me every sicario we have, now. Within 2 hours, Pablo had assembled over 300 sicarios in a warehouse in Medellin. 300 professional killers, the most dangerous men in Colombia. Men who'd killed for Pablo before, who'd carried out assassinations, bombings, executions without hesitation. Men who were loyal to him absolutely, who would die for him if he asked. And Pablo stood in front of them and gave a speech that became legendary in cartel history, a speech that people who were there would repeat word for word decades later. He didn't shout, didn't scream, didn't show rage or emotion, just spoke in a calm, cold voice that was more terrifying than any rage could have been, a voice that made it clear he was completely serious, completely committed, completely willing to do whatever it took. "The Cali Cartel is my mother," he said, his voice echoing in the silent warehouse. "They think they can use her to control me. They think I will pay them their ransom and run away from Medellin like a coward. They are wrong. I will pay nothing. I will run nowhere. Instead, I am going to show them what happens when you touch my family. In the next 72 hours, you're going to kill every Cali Cartel member you can find. I don't care if they're soldiers or leaders or just associates. I don't care if they're in Cali or Medellin or anywhere else in Colombia. Find them, kill them, and keep killing them until my mother is returned to me safely. If she is harmed, if she is hurt in any way, if she has even a single bruise when I get her back, then we don't stop at 72 hours. We keep going. We kill everyone associated with the Cali Cartel, their families, their friends, their lawyers, their bankers, everyone. We burn Cali to the ground. We make it so that kidnapping my mother becomes the last thing the Cali Cartel ever does, the last mistake they ever make. The sicarios left that warehouse knowing they were about to start a war, and they were ready, because Pablo had made it personal, had made it about family, had made it about something that mattered more than money or territory or power. Then Pablo made a phone call, called the Rodriguez Orihuela brothers directly, bypassing all intermediaries, all protocols. And what he said in that phone call became the most quoted threat in cartel history. The exact words have been reported slightly differently by different sources over the years, but everyone who heard about it agrees on the core message, on the essence of what Pablo said. According to people who were in the room when Pablo made the call, he said, "You have my mother. I will give you one chance to return her unharmed. If you do, if she comes back to me without a scratch, I will kill only the people directly involved in kidnapping her. The 4 men who grabbed her off the street, the people who planned this operation. But if you don't return her, if you hurt her, if you try to negotiate, if you try to use her as leverage, then I will kill everyone. Your soldiers, your lieutenants, your accountants, your families, everyone you love. I will spend every dollar I have, every resource at my disposal. I will dedicate my entire organization to destroying yours, and I will not stop until the Cali Cartel ceases to exist, until your name is erased from Colombia, until people forget you ever existed. You have 72 hours. Return my mother or watch your empire burn." The Cali Cartel leaders thought Pablo was bluffing, thought he was trying to scare them, thought he wouldn't actually start a full-scale war over one person, even if that person was his mother. They were wrong about that too. Within 6 hours of Hermilda's kidnapping, Pablo's sicarios had killed 12 Cali Cartel members in Medellin, shot them in the streets in broad daylight, in their homes while they slept, in restaurants while they ate dinner with their families, anywhere they could be found. No hiding, no mercy, no hesitation. Within 12 hours, the count was up to 23 dead. Within 24 hours, 37 bodies. And Pablo's people weren't just killing soldiers, weren't just targeting sicarios and enforcers. They were killing anyone associated with the Cali Cartel. Lawyers who handled their contracts, accountants who managed their money, drivers who transported their product, cooks who worked in their safe houses. Anyone. The message was brutally clear. If you work for the Cali Cartel in any capacity, if you take their money, if you help them in any way, you are dead. There are no civilians in this war. There is no neutral ground. The violence was unprecedented. Even for Colombia, even for the drug war that had already killed thousands, this was extreme. Bodies were piling up in Medellin, and Cali fast and authorities could process them. The police couldn't keep up with the crime scenes. The morgues were overflowing, running out of space to store the dead. Hospitals were overwhelmed with wounded. And Pablo's sicarios weren't stopping, weren't slowing down, weren't showing any signs of fatigue or hesitation. Were hunting Cali Cartel members with systematic, almost industrial efficiency. They had lists of names, had addresses of safe houses, had photographs of targets, had detailed intelligence about Cali Cartel operations, and they were working through those lists methodically, professionally, like they were checking items off a grocery list, killing everyone they could find with cold precision. The Cali Cartel tried to fight back. sent their own sicarios to kill Medellin cartel members in retaliation, tried to match Pablo's violence with their own, but they were outmatched from the start. Pablo had more men, 300 sicarios mobilized within hours, with more arriving constantly, had more resources, unlimited money to pay for weapons, intelligence, bribes, had more motivation. His sicarios were fighting to save their boss's mother, fighting for family, fighting for honor. The Cali sicarios were fighting because they were paid to, because it was their job, because they had no choice. There's a fundamental difference between fighting for money and fighting for something you believe in, and it showed in the body count. It showed in the efficiency. It showed in the fact that Pablo's sicarios were winning every engagement, killing 3 Cali members for every 1 Medellin member killed. By the end of the first day, the Cali Cartel had lost 37 men. By the end of the second day, 42 dead. And Pablo showed no signs of stopping. His sicarios were still hunting, still killing, still sending the message that the Cali Cartel had made a fatal, irreversible mistake. If anything, the violence was accelerating. More targets were being identified every hour. More intelligence was coming in. More sicarios were arriving in Cali to join the hunt. And then something happened that the Cali Cartel hadn't anticipated, something that made their situation even more desperate. Other cartels, other criminal organizations throughout Colombia started helping Pablo, not because they liked him, not because they were allied with him, not because they wanted to see the Medellin cartel win, but because the Cali Cartel had broken the unspoken rule about not touching family. And if the Cali Cartel could get away with kidnapping Pablo's mother, if they could use family as leverage without consequences, then no one's family was safe. Every cartel leader's mother, wife, children would become targets. The entire criminal underworld would descend into chaos. So other organizations started feeding Pablo intelligence, telling him where Cali Cartel members were hiding, providing addresses, phone numbers, schedule, helping him find targets, because they wanted to send a message too. You don't touch family, ever. That's the one line you don't cross. And if you do, everyone will help destroy you. On the third day, 70 hours after Hermilda had been kidnapped, the Rodriguez-Orihuela brothers made a phone call to Pablo. They were ready to negotiate, ready to return Hermilda, because they'd realized that Pablo wasn't bluffing, wasn't going to stop, was actually going to destroy their entire organization over this. They lost 47 men in 72 hours, 47 trained sicarios, lieutenants, associates, and Pablo showed no signs of slowing down. If anything, he was accelerating. More sicarios were arriving in Cali every hour. More targets were being identified. More people were dying. The Cali Cartel offered to return Hermilda immediately. No ransom, no conditions, just wanted the killing to stop. And Pablo's response was simple. Bring her to the cathedral in Envigado, unharmed. If she has a single bruise, a single scratch, anything that shows you hurt her, then this continues. If she's fine, then I'll stop. But the people who actually took her, who put their hands on her, who planned this, they die. No negotiation on that. The Cali Cartel agreed, had no choice. They brought Hermilda to the cathedral in Envigado exactly 72 hours after they'd taken her. She was unharmed, scared but physically fine. They'd actually treated her well during the kidnapping, had given her food and water and a comfortable place to stay, because they'd realized within the first day that hurting her would be suicide. Pablo was waiting at the cathedral, took his mother in his arms, held her, and according to people who were there, he cried. Pablo Escobar, the most feared drug lord in the world, cried holding his mother. Then he kept his word. The systematic killing of Cali Cartel members stopped. But the 4 men who'd actually kidnapped Hermilda, who'd grab her off the street, who'd put their hands on her, they were found within a week. And they died in ways that sent a message to anyone who might think about touching Pablo's family in the future. The details are too brutal to describe here, but suffice it to say that their deaths were designed to be remembered, to be talked about, to be a warning. The final count from those 72 hours, 47 Cali Cartel members dead, dozens more wounded, millions of dollars in damage, and a message sent that echoed through Colombian underworld for years. Pablo Escobar's family is untouchable. The Cali Cartel never tried anything like that again, never went after Pablo's family, never even threatened them, because they'd learned what everyone else in Colombia already knew. Pablo would sacrifice everything for his mother, would burn his entire empire down, would spend every dollar he had, would kill thousands of people, would do anything, pay any price, cross any line to protect her. Years later, after Pablo's death in 1993, Hermilda gave an interview to a Colombian journalist where she talked about the kidnapping for the first time publicly. And what she said revealed something important about Pablo that most people don't understand, something that gets lost in all the stories about his violence and his crimes. She said, "People think Pablo was a monster, and maybe he was. I'm not blind to what he did. I know he killed people. I know he hurt Colombia. I know he caused so much suffering. But to me, he was my son. My little boy who used to help me sell cigarettes on the street corner when we were so poor we didn't know if we'd eat that day. Who promised me when he was just 10 years old that he'd make sure I never had to work again, that I'd live in a nice house and have everything I needed. Who called me every day no matter where he was hiding, no matter how dangerous it was for him to make that call. Who loved me more than anything in the world, who would do anything for me. When I was kidnapped, I wasn't afraid, not for a single moment, because I knew Pablo would come for me, knew he would do anything to get me back, knew he would move heaven and earth, and he did. He started a war for me, killed dozens of people for me, and I know that makes me complicit in those deaths. I know that every person who died in those 72 hours, they died because of me, because I was Pablo's mother, and I will carry that guilt for the rest of my life. I know that my son did terrible things, but I also know that he loved me, and sometimes I think that was the only good thing left in him, the only part of him that was still human, the only part that wasn't corrupted by the violence and the money and the power. She was right. Pablo's love for his mother was the one thing that remained pure in a life defined by violence and corruption and death. He killed thousands of people, destroyed countless lives, flooded America with cocaine that ruined families and communities, corrupted Colombia's institutions, bribed judges and politicians, turned the country into a war zone. But he loved his mother, completely, unconditionally, with a devotion that never wavered, never diminished, never became corrupted. And he proved it in March 1988 when he started a war to get her back, when he mobilized 300 killers, when he threatened to destroy the Cali Cartel completely. The kidnapping became legend in Colombia, became the story that every cartel member knew, became the proof that Pablo Escobar was not someone you could intimidate or control or manipulate, because he didn't care about money, didn't care about territory, didn't care about power. He cared about his family, and he would sacrifice everything else to protect them. The Cali Cartel survived the 72-hour war, rebuilt, continued operating, eventually became even more powerful than the Medellin cartel after Pablo's death. But they never forgot the lesson they learned in March 1988. Never forgot what happened when they touched Pablo's mother. Never forgot the 47 men they lost in 72 hours. And they never, ever went after Pablo's family again. Today, the story is told as a cautionary tale about the dangers of underestimating someone's devotion to family, about the fact that some people have lines they will not let you cross, about the reality that threatening someone's mother is not a negotiating tactic. It's a declaration of war. The Cali Cartel thought they could use Hermilda as leverage, thought they could force Pablo to back down, thought they understood how the game was played. They didn't understand Pablo Escobar at all, because Pablo wasn't playing a game. He was protecting his mother, and there are no rules, no limits, no boundaries when it comes to that. The Cali Cartel learned that lesson the hard way. 47 dead men in 72 hours. That's what it cost them to learn that Pablo Escobar's mother was untouchable. That's the price they paid for breaking the one rule everyone knew you couldn't break. And that's why, to this day, when people in Colombia talk about Pablo Escobar, they don't just talk about his crimes or his wealth or his power. They talk about the time someone kidnapped his mother and what he did next, because that's the story that explains who Pablo really was. Not a businessman, not a politician, not a Robin Hood, but a son who loved his mother more than anything in the world, and who would burn Colombia to the ground before he let anyone hurt her.